We're going to start Havdalah with a bonus. Rabbi Barbara is still on vacation, although I believe she was leading services last night. I have a story for you called It's All for the Best, which is an odd thing because if people know me, I'm not a Pollyanna. And I sort of would not say myself everything is all for the best, but we're going to learn about Nahum, who was a very simple man. He couldn't read or write. He didn't hold an important job, and he wasn't wealthy. But to the people of his town, he was practically a celebrity. Nahum was famous for two things. First, he had extraordinary bad luck. If he decided to sell umbrellas, it wouldn't rain for weeks. If a potted plant fell off a windowsill, you could be sure what happened just as Nahum was walking underneath. But do you suppose he was bitter? Not at all. A sweet smile stayed on his face even when the birds overhead used him for target practice. Always he would say, "It's all for the best." Never angry, never upset, just all for the best, all for the best. So people started calling him Nahum, all for the best. "Tell me," his friend said in amusement, "how is bird poop on your head all for the best?" Nahum wiped his bald spot thoughtfully. "Well, if I hadn't needed to borrow your handkerchief, I would have never stopped to talk to you," he finally said. "And how I do love talking to you." No matter what happened to him, no matter how awful or nasty or just plain yucky, Nahum, all for the best, would somehow spin it around. So that was the second reason that he was famous. He was always happy, and that made everyone around him feel somehow that their problems too might be all for the best. So, when the sages of Israel wanted to send a gift to Caesar, the ruler of the Roman Empire, whom did they decide to send? "Nahum, all for the best, of course," said one of the wise men. "Are you out of your mind?" said another. "He has such bad luck, something is bound to go wrong." "Aha," said a third. "But if something goes wrong, who better than Nahum, all for the best, to handle it?" "Exactly," said a fourth. "Anyone can have things go wrong, but only Nahum can make it turn out right." So it was Nahum who set out the next day, his horse's saddlebags bulging with gifts of jewels for Caesar. As night fell, Nahum stopped at an inn. And as luck would have it, or as rather Nahum's luck would have it anyway, the innkeeper was a thief. All the loot he'd stolen from his own guests were kept locked in a huge iron-bound trunk. That night, when everyone was asleep, the innkeeper crept into Nahum's room, wrenched open the saddlebags, and stuffed the jewels in his pocket. Then he crept quietly down the stairs into the garden where he shoveled dirt into Nahum's saddlebags so they would weigh the same, and poor Nahum wouldn't notice how light they were. Finally, the innkeeper untied Nahum's horse and led it into his own stable. The next morning, the innkeeper shook his head sadly, saying, "Oh, sorry, my friend. It looks like someone has stolen your horse in the night. I don't know how you can carry those heavy saddlebags all the way to Caesar by yourself." "Oh, isn't this working out perfectly?" said Nahum as he tore off a bit of bread. "I was just thinking I could use a bit more exercise. So you see, it's all for the best." And later that morning, Nahum set out again, swinging the saddlebags over his shoulder and whistling a little tune. He whistled and hummed all the way to Rome, unaware now that the treasure he was carrying was worthless. As luck would have it, or as Nahum's luck would have it anyway, he realized it was a problem only after he'd made a magnificent speech before Caesar. "This gift of the Jews symbolizes our feelings for you, great Caesar," said Nahum with a bow and a flourish of one hand. He opened the saddlebags and dumped the contents on the gleaming marble floor. But instead of a flood of sparkling gemstones, a puddle of dirt dribbled across the floor. "This is how the Jews show their feelings for me," said Caesar. "Why have your people sent me such a gift?" Nahum stared at the dirt. I'm not sure, but he gulped, and it seemed that for once he might not be able to find anything good out of it. Then he stood up straight and said firmly, I'm sure it's all for the best. Dozens of Caesar's advisors swarmed around in a flurry. These Jews are making fun of us, one cried. How dare they send dirt as a gift, said another. Just then, an old bearded man stepped out from the crowd of advisors and scooped up a handful of dirt. Your Highness, said the man watching Nahum all the time, perhaps this dirt is not an insult after all. I have heard the story of how Abraham, their forefather, would tear down the walls of his enemies' cities with miraculous earth. It's said to be mightier than any weapon. So he tossed a little of the dirt against the nearest wall with one hand, and everywhere the dirt touched, a burst of cracks appeared in the stone. Caesar got up and let a handful of dirt trickle through his fingers. Is this the meaning of the gift? He asked Nahum. Are your people offering me the strength of your great ancestors? Caesar's face broke into a smile. And what a wonderful gift indeed. As you said, it's all for the best. Nahum felt dizzy. Where were his jewels gone? What was this all about magic dirt? How on earth was a ruler of the Roman Empire clapping on the back and looking pleased? It was all for the best, of course. But how? And then, just to make things even more confusing, the old advisor caught Nahum's eyes and winked. Nahum was still a little shaky as he was sent home in a royal carriage, his saddlebags filled to the brim with even more precious jewels. And most wonderful of all, he carried a letter from Caesar promising protection for all the jewels in his empire. As luck would have it, or once again, as Nahum's luck would have it, night fell just as he approached the inn where his horse was stolen. When the scheming innkeeper saw the magnificent carriage and overflowing saddlebags, his eyes bulged and his mouth hung open. How did this happen? He blurted out as Nahum climbed down. You will never believe it, Nahum told him. My saddlebags were filled with fine jewels. When I got to the palace, they were filled with dirt. Imagine. The innkeeper nodded his head a little too quickly. The strangest thing is that Caesar liked the dirt so much that he gave me treasure worth twice as much in return. You see, even the dirt was all for the best. Smiling, Nahum told the innkeeper good night and went off to bed. That makes no sense, the innkeeper thought to himself over and over. Finally, he approached another guest, who, as it turned out, was none other than Caesar's old bearded advisor, with the astonishing story of the Jew who'd just been rewarded for bringing dirt to the king. The old man tugged his beard and stared off into space. I don't know, he said, but if he gave that poor Jew a reward for 2 bags of dirt, imagine what he would do for you if you brought him a whole wagon full. On hearing this brilliant idea, the innkeeper grabbed a shovel and ran outside. But as luck would have it, or as the innkeeper's luck would have it, anyway, he didn't notice the bearded man transforming himself back into Elijah the prophet. If he had, he might have thought twice about bringing a wagon load of dirt as a gift to Caesar. But it was all for the best. For insulting Caesar, the innkeeper ended up in jail. And that's where he belonged anyway. So that's our story for tonight. We hadn't had Elijah for a couple weeks. And now we're going to move on to Havdalah. I'm going to see, let me get my, here we go. Whoops, eek. I just did something wrong there. Oh, that's because I was hitting the wrong thing. Okay, Control C. Sorry about that. I was hitting Alt C rather than Control C. Whoops. And on Control V. There we go. And the Havdalah blessings are in chat for those who would like them. I'm going to get my candle lit first because I have old matches here and sometimes they don't really want to work. So let's make sure that, I went quickly. Oops. And sorry about that. The match worked. Candle didn't seem to want to stay lit. There we go. We got to get at least 3 of these lit. There we got it. All right. Die, 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 die. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen. Die, 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 die. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'samim borei minei v'samim. Die, 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 die. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei me'orei ha'esh borei me'orei ha'esh. Die, 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 die. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Mavdil ben kodesh l'chol ben or l'choshek ben yom hashvi'i l'sheshet tameh hamaseh. Baruch atah Adonai hamavdil ben kodesh l'chol. You may want to breathe the fountain again in a few minutes as we then extinguish our candles and say a final goodbye to Shabbat. If you want to unmute yourself and sing Eliyahu Hanavi and Shavua Tov with me, feel free. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu HaTishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu HaGilati, V'mihera v'yameinu, Yavo Aleinu, Mashiach ben David. Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov, Shavua Tov. A good week, a week of peace, may gladness reign and joy increase. A good week, a week of peace, may gladness reign and joy increase. Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.
Everyone.
It's good to see everyone again.
Wish everyone a good week. And happy 4th, happy safe 4th of July. I know that they've banned some fireworks in some places. So if you actually are going to use them, please be very careful. We don't want anybody to lose any fingers or anything.
Yeah.
And we'll say goodbye to our folks on Facebook for this week and hope to see them again next week. Oh.